Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to what I'm going to call my Wandering In special. So if you've just wandered in, welcome. This is going to be a single review, and hopefully I'll have a interview attached with Andrea Parsneau, who I'm trying to get to schedule with right now. So this is me recording the review itself, and I'm going to be talking to her about getting the interview done later on this week. So I'll have a special out with just this book. And that's what you're listening to right now. And I've also asked Pirate Abba, or Pirataba, or Pirapata, however you want to say it, but Pirate Abba, to partake in the episode. And they pretty much said, I'd love to do so, but I must decline at this time. Me parrot is sick. No, that's not what they said. They said, "Arr," and that's all they told me. No, again, I'm just being stupid. Pirate Abba was very kind and just basically said, I don't want to reveal my identity, my gender, or my whatever it is, in any capacity to my fans. They only know me as Pirate Abba. Dancing Queen. Yeah, Pirate Abba. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Fernando knows. They very kindly declined, and did offer to allow me to ask them some questions, like I would write something down and they would respond back. And I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to read off like my questions and then answers, because I would have to do that in like a silly voice. And, like for Pirate Abba, it would be disrespectful, to say the least, to make them sound silly. And I respect that, they want to have their privacy. I did offer to do the voice modulation and have the light behind them and have the dark in front so we couldn't see. Maybe put a blanket over them or something so that we wouldn't be able to see who it is. But again, they declined, and that's fine. That's their right, and I completely understand that. And believe me, my narration skills, my interview skills are not even close to being decent enough to do that with the pirate. I feel bad for Andrea, who has to endure my stupid questions. But anyway, I have blabbled and babbled far enough into this intro. So let me just say, welcome to the LitRPG Audiobook Podcast. I am Ray, your host, and today I'm going to be very exclusively focusing on The Wandering In. Now, The Wandering In, this is Volume 1. It is written by, as I said before, Pirate Abba, narrated by Andrea Parsneau, and it has a book length of 43 hours and 10 minutes. And no, I didn't goof it up. It's 43 hours and 10 minutes.
The inn was dark and empty. It stood silent on the grassy hilltop, the ruins of other structures around it. Rot and age had brought low other buildings. The weather and wildlife had reduced stone foundations to rubble and stout wooden walls to a few rotten pieces of timber mixed with the ground. But the inn still stood. It was waiting. Not in a sentient, thinking way, but in the way all buildings wait. It was waiting for someone to find it. For wasn't that the purpose of an inn? And someone did find it. A young woman stumbled through the grass up the hill. Her knees were shaking and she was gasping for air. Her lungs burned. Her right arm was burned. Smoke was still rising from the charred fabric on one shoulder, and her legs were bleeding. Several shallow cuts had torn open her pants at the back of the legs. But still, she climbed the hill because of the inn.
So, for all you audio listeners out there, I know the first thing you're going to say is, holy crap, how can I listen to 40 hours plus of any kind of a story? It's practically impossible. It would just take forever to do that. And I say, nay. As an example, one of the narrators who I first became acquainted with when I started listening to audiobooks was a man named Michael Naramore. Michael Naramore is a really good narrator, and he's got a huge series of books that he's narrated in different genres, and I've got practically all of them. I really like him a lot. Well, J.S. Morin had written a book, or I should say a series of books, like 16 books, and they were shorter length books. But JS put that all into one collection. And if you want to know how long it was, I'll tell you, it was 85 hours. 85 hours. So if you're going to ask me, Ray, what's the longest audiobook you've ever listened to? I would say it was Galaxy Outlaws, The Complete Black Ocean Mobius Missions 1 through 16.5. Without a doubt, without hesitation, I can tell you that. It was huge. And it was really good. And it was also enough that, like I say in the story, I got to know the characters in depth. I got to know them very well. I got to know a lot about them. And it felt like I had lived amongst the crew. I felt like I was a crew member. And I want to come back now and talk about what I'm supposed to be talking about, and that's The Wandering Inn. And the book is a substantial 40 hours, but I did it in just a couple days. I listened to it pretty much every opportunity I had because first, it's really that good. It's an amazing story. And I'm going to put it right now out like this, okay? I hate slice of life books. And I've been struggling to kind of get past that bias a lot. And in fact, I think in my last show, I talked about, like in Varnoth, the Black Blade, how I've really been trying really hard not to allow my bias against slice of life books, turn me around and make me just say the hell with it. I'm done. I'm not doing a slice of life book. Because I think, to me, if you want to know the real reason why I don't like slice of life books, and I go back to a certain few series in my life. Like, I will always talk about Dragonlance, the first 6 books. Probably the best set of books I've ever read, bar none. I don't care who wrote what. The characters and the story were just incredible. And the last 3 books, absolutely the best books I've ever read. I love the characters and the way things happen. Another series of books are the first 3 Sword of Shannara books. Sword of Shannara, Elfstones, and Wish Song. Now, Wish Song I won't talk about too much because it's just an okay story. Elfstones, incredible. It blew me away. It was that thick, and it was one of those things that it really helped solidify my love for the fantasy genre. Because I had read The Hobbit years prior as a really small kid. And then there's the Sword of Shannara. And the Sword of Shannara is that thick, which that equates to 700 hours audio narration in my mind. Okay. It is the most slice of life book I've ever read because it goes on and 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 on. It goes nowhere. It's actually probably one of the first books I ever had to just say, I have to walk away from this. I put it back on a shelf, and it was years later before I decided I needed to finish the book. Because why? If you know me, Ray always finishes his books. And I have a rule now that when I start it, no matter what else is going on, I finish the book I've started because I'm not going to jump back and forth between different stories and get myself confused and things like this. But I think that if I get the book, I deserve to do... I think the listeners of this podcast and the writers and the narrators deserve for me to put a review out there. Okay? Because I am putting in the time and I need to put that time in to do the job. And I always say, I always leave a review. I don't ever not leave a review unless a book is so awful that I can't stand it. And in that case, I'm being very kind and I don't want to leave like a 1 or 2 star. 3 stars are devastating, believe it or not. So if you're not going to leave like a 4 or 5 star, you didn't hate the book, don't leave a review. Because it takes down the author's score and it crushes books. And in this case, Sword of Shannara was one of those ones I had to go back and you just get it. But it was one of those things, it completely put me off of slice of life books because even though it has a story that actually has a point to, from point A to point B, and it gets there, everything from A until the very line of B is just trash. I mean, it's just a lot of build up and information dump and stuff like that. And rather than just telling a really good, exciting story that I was expecting, because I read Elfstones of Shannara first, and Elfstones is a short story. And I don't mean that like as in like it's, less than 10,000 words. I mean, it's a small book. And they talked about all the great stuff that happened in the Sword of Shannara. And so I'm expecting this grand, amazing story, and I get crap. So I really don't like wandering tales. Now, that being said, and again, I digress, but there's a point to all my madness. The Wandering Inn is very much claimed to be a slice of life book. Now, I don't know. I know it's serialized. It is on Royal Road. And Pirate Abba makes their living off of, fans that send in money, through a Patreon page or whatever. And it's a serialized story that comes out every Thursday, I think. And honestly, I don't know, because I don't have time to read. That's why I listen to audiobooks. So I only knew of the story because of other people on Facebook talking about how great it was. And I always said, well, I really hope someday they make this into an audiobook. And so when Andrea Parsneau first announced that she was doing the book, I was like, first off, great. I've been waiting to hear this story. Secondly, great. Andrea is amazing. I know she's not going to drop the ball. She's going to take this thing across the 1 yard line and spike the ball in one of the other players' eyes. And she does. Okay. But anyway, I was just kind of like on tenterhooks waiting for this book to show. And then when I saw, I know that she had been recording for a while, and I'm like, what's taking so long? It was a 40-hour book. I'm like, holy crap, 40 hours. Now, I mean, like I said, I just came off of, and I don't want to say just, because it was like years back. I had done the Galaxy Outlaws, and that was at the very beginning of 2018. So, pretty much 2 years ago at this point almost. I think Galaxy Outlaws came out in February. But I had still been through that, and I said, well, this is going to be a slice of life story. It's what everybody calls it. It's what everybody says. Slice of life, and it's going to take me forever to get through. It's 40 hours. The only thing I have going for me is I know Andrea is going to make every part of it incredible. It's going to be amazing, and she's going to kill and steal every scene that she possibly can. Now, lo and behold, my shock, I get the book, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, yeah, I can see how this might be considered a slice of life, as the main character finds herself in, this fantasy world all of a sudden, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, there are progressions that go as, the MC finds herself in this world. She's helpless. She finds an inn. She takes it over as a place to sleep. And she ends up, working on it a little bit. As time goes on, she claims it as her own. And so her story kind of has a very solid beginning. And then it takes a long time to get to the end of where we stop at book 1. Now, I know Andrea has already announced that there's going to be a book 2, and it will come out sometime like June of next year. And if I got that wrong, I'm not sure. I'll ask her in the interview. But it's a ways off. It's a ways off coming because it's going to be even longer. I think it's going to be like 60 hours. So she's probably going to try, like in book 3, to get my record. And she's going to try and break the 85-hour mark for me, which is fine. I could totally live with that. I don't know if my phone, if this phone has capacity to hold that much. I don't think I could do 85 hours on my phone. So, geez, I'm hoping it doesn't quite get that long, because this is before I even started listening on my cell phone. I used to listen all the time in my car. And anyway, the overall arching story does have a beginning and a middle, and it kind of has a nice ending for a first book. Now, it's not exactly what you expect, and that's good. It's great. But let me just tell you, the book is kind of split between two MCs. There's the innkeeper, and then there's the runner. Now, I really like Erin, the MC of the inn, the innkeeper. She's really great, very fun. She's not someone that you when you first see her running through the fantasy world, she's not someone you expect is going to be tough and hale and hearty, but it's her story, so she's going to have to, as they say, man up and kind of toughen herself to the extremes of the environment. The other character is a runner, and I think it's Ryoka, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but anyway, she is very unlikable. Very, very unlikable. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, because Aaron is all sugary sweet, and Ryoka is, she's like glass in your honey, okay? You think you're getting something nice, and then you get all sliced up. She is not very good. She's acerbic. She is domineering. She literally is antisocial, and she's a little racist, if you want to know the truth of it. I mean, if you want me to tell you the truth, there are several times she makes a remark in the stories that I'm like, really? Was that necessary? Because she's partially Asian, and I'm not sure how much little, how much not. But she makes remarks about other races in the book that never needs to be made. And I can tell you right now, I can listen to a story about a racist guy or girl as long as there's a real reason for the character being racist. Okay, that guy's a Nazi. Great, I get it. He's not going to like certain kind of people, and that's his character. But these are just kind of off the cuff remarks. Like the one, like she's like, well, I would never give these kind of weapon ideas to a white woman, especially. And I'm like, what does her color of her skin have to do with, the person herself? I would just never give that kind of power to a person, in royalty or whatever you want to do. But twice, or maybe three times, and forgive me if I'm misremembering, but I know there's at least twice where she makes that kind of a comment, and it just kind of slips out. And that bothered me a little bit, because she's already not nice, and you're supposed to be sympathetic towards her. But at no point did I ever feel like she was amazing or cool. I think that, she's a jerk, and she acts like a jerk to everybody, even the people who are trying to help her. And there's no real, at the end, I could say, okay, she has some growth and realizations on things. But for 99% of the story, she is just very self-centered, very selfish, and she lives in her own little world, and anybody who dares to step into that world, they suffer for it. And in fact, there's points where there's characters in the story, the other runners, who try to teach her a lesson. And of course, what they do is completely wrong, and they do it for the exact wrong reasons. But the way that she behaves, the runner, I get it. She probably had stepped on a lot of toes, metaphorically, before it got to that point where people were really irritated with her. Because, like I say, there's nothing that she ever does that makes anything about her likable. Nothing. Now, I did like her story. Her arch was pretty good. And I liked the fact that, she was willing to do crazy stuff. And that's what earned, a lot of respect from other people. And so on and so forth. But her own attitude is I don't want to learn or level or gain skills. I don't want any of that. I just want to do this one thing, and that's it. So she completely holds the world and other people at arm's length. And, that's in contrast to the innkeeper, Aaron, who is accepting of everybody, even the people that you shouldn't accept, like goblins. These are the murdering fiends of the wilderness. They rape and murder and pillage and burn and kill. And she's attacked by them multiple times. And yet she still has an open door policy, about about not killing goblins and helping them out, doing things. And of course, her perspective wins out in the end because I don't want to spoil anything, but she earns respect from the goblins, okay? And it proves a lot of stuff in the book, about how she is personally. Because when she first comes to this world, she's not really appreciated. She meets these drakes, these lizard people, and ant people, and gnolls, and the gnolls think she stinks because she's a human and she doesn't bathe, and everybody just, there's a lot of bias against her for being human more than anything, and she doesn't hold any of their races against them in her mind. Like, she doesn't say, drakes are creepy because they're reptilian, even though she calls them lizard people, or she doesn't freak out because the Antinium are huge ants, or the gnolls are kind of like hyenas. So you would almost say like they're like werewolves in a certain aspect, the way they would stand and behave. And I don't know, if I'm walking down the street and I see a werewolf, I'm freaking out. Well, she doesn't. She handles herself and composes herself very well in every situation, and she treats everybody with respect. So again, there's the dichotomy. Everybody gets respect from the innkeeper, and the runner gives nobody any respect. And the problem is like, most people don't respect the innkeeper that should. And the problem is the people that do respect the runner shouldn't. Okay? And by that I mean, like Erin, the poor innkeeper, she does things, and she's very self-sufficient. And her self-sufficiency irritates people because it causes problems. And then, certain drakes, like I said, I'm trying not to spoil anything, they get upset with her and they don't want to talk to her or see her anymore. They don't want to come out to the inn. And for, Ryoka, the runner, there's a Minotaur who just thinks she's the stuff. She's top dog. And he's like, yeah, she is a really cool human. I want to get with that in some capacity because she's pretty awesome. And then they kind of see that she's a total jerk over time. No matter what they do, she's just a total ass. So there's a lot of dichotomy between the two, what this one is, this one isn't, and so on and so forth. And, I appreciate that. It does give it to you, but honestly, Ryoka, she annoyed me every chance that she had on the page. And like I say, the mild racism, okay, I get it. That's just a perspective, but it was totally unnecessary to the story. Totally unnecessary. And I really did just, if she had said that about any other race, if she'd been, I would never give that to a black lady. I would have been like, what the hell, And it's the same thing here. It was just really bizarre. And I don't know if it's because the Pirate Abba thinks she's Asian, so it's okay to do something like that. But again, it's just so off the cuff and just so right out real quick and done. I doubt most people would notice it or let it bother them, but it does me. It does me. And like I say, I'm against that in any form whatsoever. I mean, I have a daughter who's biracial. I have kids who are autistic. So I've got, different things going on in my family. I've got kids who are foster kids. I've adopted them. They have their own issues. My family is a very big blended family, and we don't hold anything against anybody. And, to have anybody say anything negative just because of who they are without any kind of real knowledge, and if they just make it about them, that bugs me. And again, like I said, I can handle racism in stories. I can handle racist characters. There just has to be a reason. There's got to be good motivation. And as long as it's fine, it's okay because it's part of the story. Here, just zips out. So no more of that. I'm just letting that one go. The story itself is really fun. It's really, really fun. I really loved watching Erin grow as an innkeeper and leveling, and I loved her, she gets a very special skill, which is called, I'm probably going to mess it up, but it's an immortal moment. And the immortal moment lets her, not pause time, but expand time so that, amazing things happen in the time that things are happening. So, she sings songs that she knows from, Earth. And the people that are listening to her also hear, the singer and the music of that song. So, she's singing, the Carpenter song. They hear Karen Carpenter, and they hear, the music and so on. So, and it was a really great, amazing scene, and it was just perfect. Everything, I have to say, the characters in the books are very well thought out. They're very well fleshed out. They all have very good backstories. I didn't think there was any issues whatsoever from any point of view with anybody speaking or doing things. I think that you get to know them pretty quickly. so that when you meet them, you see who they are, and then everything's backed up by their story in the past. Everybody has ulterior motives in the story, except for Relk. Relk, the Drake, he pretty much is what you see is what you get kind of guy. Everybody else wants, the innkeeper for some purpose or another. Whatever it is, they want her. And it's the same thing with the runner. The people that know her, or, kind of know where she's from or what she is, they want her pretty bad. And so it's just one of those things where things like the characters and things like that, they meet and it's very realistic. You don't go, this doesn't feel natural. It's very organic. And like I say, when the sparks start to fly, and I don't mean like as in lovey kind of sparks. I mean like, we're hitting flint and steel, bing, bing, bing. And sparks are flying because this character does this and this character does that. And then there's tension. It's a real tension. That's how well developed the characters are. But again, you've got 40 hours to build up a lot of information on these characters. So that is a real bonus. It's a plus in my mind. The overarching story, like I say, it does start very simply, but it has a real point at the end. Things happen, and you go, holy crap, didn't expect that. Did not expect that. If you know me at all, you know I love when characters die. There have to be stakes. There have to be, not everybody lives. This isn't like the Lord of the Rings where, Aragorn makes it and Gimli makes it and, everybody, even the hobbits who've got no reason to survive. It'd have been great if Sam and, Frodo had died in the Hobbit, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, at the end, at Mount Doom, if they had just burned up in lava, because that would have been realistic. And I think that, how they escape is just a cheat. And I've always said that, Tolkien, always, anytime he got himself brushed into a corner, all he had to do was say, hey, eagles. And then the eagles were there. And it just annoys the crap out of me because it's a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. And so, there are consequences to, things that characters do. They know they're going to go here and do this, and this could be wrong, and they pay for it in some capacity. And I'm not going to tell you who dies or how they die or whatever happens, but I will say there is a lot of consequences, and they're high stakes. And so, you can be very attached. And I will tell you, Andrea had me choked up. There is a scene from one of my favorite characters where terrible things happen. And I was like, my God, I don't think I can go to work today. Wait, I am working because I'm driving the car as I'm driving to work. Okay, so I had to go to work, even though a horrible thing happened in the story. It was very impactful. You carry the guilt over what happens just as much as, the characters do. Or, you regret things as much as the characters do. So it's pretty powerful. It's a really good story. And that's where I like to say the mesh up of the characters and the tale work so very well. Pirate Abba, very clearly, this is not something that they sat down and just said, okay, a girl goes to the bathroom and instead of going into her toilet, she ends up in the dragon's den. And then I'll figure it out from here. Very, very clearly, the pirate has plans and has lined out a lot of stuff. And I'm going to be frank with you. I really, 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 really did not expect this book to go the way that it did. I was expecting something along and if you're a comic book geek like me, Neil Gaiman's Sandman, there's a run called The Inn at the End of the World or something like that, which it has this inn that sets in this interdimensional nexus, and the whole story is based on the guests that come to the tavern, the inn, and the things that they do as they go forth. So there's 4 or 5 different stories that revolve around the characters in the inn itself. And that was more what I was expecting. I was kind of saying, okay, so the innkeeper will be the rock that things start off each chapter with or something like that. And then we'll meet some really cool characters, and then we'll just kind of deviate, see what happens to them, and then we'll come back at the end, and then it'll be back to the innkeeper. And it's not what happens. It's all about the inn and Aaron and so on and so forth, as they go through the story. And that is, like I say, it's an incredible thing because it's so very clearly written that there's no question, that they know what they're doing. Whoever the writer is, he or she. I hate to use the pronoun game. But anyway, this is just one of those stories that there is very clearly a concept, an idea, and at least, I don't know if there's an endpoint in mind. I would imagine not at this point. I think that, Pirate Abba makes their living, doing the serialized thing, from their Patreons. So I don't know, but we'll see. Now, I've talked a lot about the story, so let me get into Andrea Parsneau. Andrea she is the book. And like I say, there are times where you say, my gosh, this narrator becomes the character, or this narrator, that's their series. And I'm saying Parsneau is this book, body and soul. 100% down the line, there's no question. Everything that Andrea Parsneau is in this book. She has bled for this book, cried for this book, sweated for this book, burped for this book. I mean, you name it, it's in there. You can tell right away. I mean, the characters' lives are so vibrant, so clear and crisp and real. And like I always say, like, Andrea is one of these people that, like, I know I probably beat this every time I talk about her, but she really impresses the emotions of a scene and the characters better than 99% of the narrators I know. And I have favorite narrators and things like that, but each one has a speciality, okay? I mean, like, each one has an ability to do something that none of the others can do. And Andrea, I mean, she gives you vocal hints and clues. If she knows something that you don't, she will hide that in her voice and tell you, here's why this character is feeling this way, even though you don't know it, and you can pick it up. You can kind of say, okay, I can see what she's saying here just by the way she said this. So, I always joke about people going for the Oscars, but this is totally like Grammy style performance. It is so intense and so real. I just really don't know how she was able to do this, especially that if there were 40 hours in the book, she probably put 3 times that into the story itself. With retakes and double takes and editing and, did this work out? No, let me go back and do this. She just really, really, really animates this story. It is, I always say, like, there's a theater of the mind. I sit down with my popcorn, I put on my earbuds, and I sit here and just listen. And I can see everything that's happening before me. And, a good story can kind of like be carried even by a bad narrator. But this is not the case. This is the case of we have a great story and we have a great narrator. And this elevates, honestly, the story to a whole new, atmospheric level. Let's go fly a kite up where the air is clear. We are past kite flying levels, because she really, really provides voices for everybody. You know who they are. There's never a question as to their gender or their personality type, because if they're snooty, they are snooty as they are being read by her. And, so, she just has this catalog, and I don't know how she does it. There's so many characters in this book, this catalog. And the only thing I will say is the Antiniums sound like they're all pretty much closely the same thing, but that's okay. Because they're ants, and I don't think ants are going to have a lot of variation in their voices. An ant's going to speak like an ant, and that's it. The ants really, really, even with their their almost similar voices are dissimilar enough that I know when Kilbaketch is speaking as compared to somebody else. And man, if I can say Kilbaketch now, I'm just stunned because I would never be able to do that before. But I've heard the name repeated so often. I needed 40 hours of Kilbaketch. And I can't even do the way that she does, like the ants Kilbaketch. She does this thing and she's amazing with it. I give her so much credit. This is an undertaking. Like, they say, okay, Andrea, okay, let's just go back to like Shawshank Redemption. If you've ever seen the Shawshank Redemption, you know how Andy's like, give me one of them little stone axes. And they're like, I don't want you putting a toe in somebody's head. And he's like, well, when you see it, you'll know what I'm asking about. And he gets a little hammer. It's about that big, right? It's just that much. And he digs a whole tunnel. Yeah. Right through the wall. And he gets out. And if I just spoiled it, well, I mean, sorry, this movie's been out for years. Everybody knows the story. But it's like Andrea is given that rock hammer and then told to go and mine gold all by herself, and the gold is 2,000 feet below ground. And she starts in without batting an eye. She doesn't break a sweat. She doesn't bat an eye. She starts pounding on this mountainside, and piece by piece, chip by chip, she gets her way in, and she strikes gold. The heart of gold, the mother lode, the big vein. She gets it. And she brings this story to life like nobody else. I can't see anybody else. And I know many narrators out there. I just don't see anybody else being able to do this job by themselves. That's one thing. I love SBT, but SBT would have had like 4 narrators in the story. And it would have been great. Because they would have had like 2 men, 2 ladies, and they'd have switched off on voices and personality types, and it would have been great. No, Andrea does it all by herself. And I just don't know how she had the fortitude. I don't know how she didn't get hospitalized. She drives this book like it is a semi on fire, and she's getting it away from a busload of school kids. I mean, she's like a mad woman. She just, there's no fear. Like literally there is no fear in her whatsoever. She does this so incredibly well. It's scary. Now, with that being said, I have to say, like, my own personal preferences for the story. The story is really good, but it's the characters that make the story. And there's really, for me, 3 characters that I just absolutely loved and adored. And they are Rags. Rags is just the best. I love Rags a lot because Rags doesn't really speak. And so you kind of have to get the stuff like that from Andrea to kind of get her attitude really right. And, how she'll talk about like how they look at her or how she looks at other people, and so on and so forth. All that attitude that she has is coming right from Andrea. Another is Tor. Tor is a skeleton who does not speak. Oh, what again? A nonverbal character? Are you kidding me? Are you yeah, no, I'm totally serious. She makes another nonverbal character. In this case, there is not even a mumble or a grumble or meow, 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 that she could make in response to this character. There's just no way. So she has to tell his story, Tor's story, just by the intonation of her voice. And you totally get Tor. You totally get him. You get where he's coming from, how he thinks, what he wants, what he doesn't understand. You get it all. And of course, the third favorite character is Kilbaketch. Kilbaketch is one of those rare characters that it's kind of like charisma oozes from Kilbaketch the moment that he comes onto the page, or in this case, he begins playing in your ear. Kilbaketch totally steals the show in my eyes for whatever he does. He is just amazing. I love Kilbaketch, and she infuses so much and like you say, heart into this character, it's scary. Now you're going to say, well, didn't you like Erin? Didn't you like, well, I've told you how I feel about the runner. Erin's good. She's nice. I like, there's a Knoll friend of hers, a Knoll salesman. Like that merchant a lot. There's other characters, like I said, Relk is okay. I'm not amazed by Relk, but he's a good character. Like, the characters are all cool, and they're fun and exciting. But like, if you want to go with narration and how impossible it would be to do some of this stuff, like, I would love to see somebody else take a non-speaking character and make you feel the way that she makes you feel Tor is, okay? Or the way that Rags does things. Or this weird speaking insect, as part of the Antinium, because the Antinium are a race of ant people that live under the city, and they basically struggle to, what they want, and I'm assuming, is they want to be able to have free-thinking individuals but remain part of the colony. But the problem is when the moment they become free thinkers, they snap and go, oh, I'm an aberration, and then they go killing everybody. So, the Antinium are just like this. They're very intriguing, and I like non-humanoid races. You don't see very often insectile PCs, player characters or NPCs, whatever you want to call it, because it's just very difficult to get. They're very alien in their thoughts and processes, and that's where Pirate Abba really nails it down, because it's very clearly they are not thinking like people, but Andrea also makes them humanized. Kilbyketch very clearly, as inhuman as he is, it always makes me think of, Captain Kirk at the death of Spock, and he goes, of all the souls I've ever known, his was the most human. And that's the way I see Kilbyketch. Kilbyketch may be an ant, but he's very, very much more than that. Much more. And I'm not going to disgrace him by saying he's human, but he's got a lot going for him that you just don't see in characters very often. And that's the beauty of the book. The book has different races that have different attitudes that all work really well. They're not negative or positives. Like, there's a nasty Drake that you're going to say he's a total dick, and then there's one that's really awesome. Then there's Relk, who's just kind of a neutral kind of guy. He plays off like this or that, but he's neither good nor evil. The Knolls, the Knolls start off very, very lashy out kind of people, but they come to accept Erin and do things. So everything that she's like, there's a lot of world building and creature building. Each race has different aspects about them that you don't see all the time. That just kind of just pops up over a period of time. Really, really smart stuff. I can't say how much I've enjoyed this book. It's one of these things, like I say, I did 85 hours on a spaceship, and now I just live 40 hours in an inn on a fantasy world. So, I have spent some time amongst really great characters. And in this case, I really can't wait to get back. I mean, it's going to be hard to wait, but I know that Andrea's doing it. And Pirate Abba has 10 billion pages on Royal Road that you can read for free. But if you're like me and you need to wait for the audio, then by all means, just wait for the audio. I just don't know why it has to be so huge. Break it up. But the reason why I can see that the 40 hours is because there was a complete story arc in that 40 hours. Starts here and ends right here. Pretty clear, easy delineation. So, I get it. But 40 hours is a long way for a book. I'd have broken it up into 2 bits or something, but that's me. I give Pirate Abba credit for not breaking down and saying, oh, this is going to be too much. Nope. Pirate Abba said, this is where we start. This is where we end for the first book. Oh my gosh. Every day I have fire trucks come by here. I gotta stop setting fires. Anyway, Pirate Abba knows, like, this is where the story needed to go, and keeps it right there. And like I say, Andrea, man, she mines this for everything it is worth. And you know who the winner is you, the listener. The listener just gets this amazing story on a platter handed to them. And for one credit, I'm going to just say it right now, there's a lot of times I flinch if I see a book's like 5 hours and they want one credit. I mean, you're talking like 5 hours for a single credit, or there's even some books that are like 2.5 hours or 3 hours and they want a credit. I'm a little iffy on that, like credits are not cheap, and you have to kind of put it in perspective. Like, is it worth the money that I'm spending on this in comparison to what I could get otherwise? And just like I said with like Galaxy Outlaws, you get 85 hours, okay? And maybe in 85 hours, there's a lull somewhere in that point. You're like halfway mark. So 40 hours in, you kind of get a little, the story is, not going as quick as it should be. Here, you're getting 40 freaking hours of amazingness. It is pure goodness, 40 hours of just blown away, never seen it before kind of stuff. Even if you have seen it before, it feels really new, really fresh. It's just incredible. And like I say, my hat is off to Andrea Parsneau, because she is freaking incredible in the story. The writing, like I said, it's A+. The writing is A+. The characters are A+. I love the characters. I hated characters. Like I say, I hated the runner, but I liked her storyline. I really did. But I just don't know if I'll ever like her character. I don't know what goes next with her, but I'm hoping she becomes a little bit less than what she is now and opens up more. And that's something to listen for, I mean, I'm waiting and waiting. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Who knows? And like I say, Andrea, man, hats off. Amazing story. So I don't even know how long I've rambled here, but I'm just going to say it like this. There's so much I could get into. It's just, there's just so much. It's an incredible amount of story, an incredible amount of narration, an incredible amount of pure goodness and wholesome writing. I mean, it's all there. And, it's something like my kids could totally listen to the story. There's not any sex. The violence, it's there, but to me, violence is violence. I don't care if somebody gets their face sucked off by a big worm or not. I could care less. Everything is there. I would let my kids listen to this very happily, and it's not a young adult story. It's definitely not a young adult story. But it's just one of those things. I think that anybody can pick it up and enjoy this story, no matter where they're from, who they are. And that just says a lot unto itself. It just says a lot that I don't care what race you are, what economic background you fall from. I don't care, what part of the world you're from. You're going to get this book and you're going to go, holy guacamole. This was incredible. And there's very few books like that. So my final score is, after a lot of deliberation, I mean, this is like a 9.5, 9.6. And a lot of it is just due to the amount of massive effort that I know that Andrea had to put into it, because writing is nowhere near as hard sometimes as narrating. Writing is easy. I can say the guy speaks with a lisp, and then the narration has to say, this guy speaks with a lisp. And, and then I have to make it sound like, okay, and the swords clashed and they clanged and they stabbed and they stabbed. Well, they've got to make it sound exciting. And, so I don't want to say writing is easy. It's not. I know it's not. But there are points to this book you just go, Andrea made this seem effortless. And Pirate Abba made this story seem organic and natural. And so I'm going to say 9.6 stars. This is probably one of the most incredible books I've listened to. And it's not slice of life. Not slice of life. I don't care what you say. I'll fight with you to the death on this. So 9.6 stars. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special LitRPG Audiobook Podcast of narrations with Andrea Parsneau. And Andrea, I got your name right this time, so I'm good, right?
Thank you. Okay.
Yes. And what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about a few things. This is part of my Wandering In special. As a book like this, it needed very special focus put on it, because this is an extremely long book, and I know it had to be a grueling, not that it wasn't fun, but it had to have been real work to get to this point. And so it deserves to have a nice little focus on it. And what I want to do is we talked about this a little while ago. Authors always get the focus put on them, and that's great because they're the writers. The people that create the books deserve to have it. But narrators, they're the ones that bring the book to life. And if a narrator doesn't do their job, a book can be great, and it can be tanked by a horrible narrator in no time at all. So I think that, really good narration is key in this business. And I really appreciate awesome narrators such as yourself. And so, bringing this out and making things happen, like I say, I just think that, I need to focus a little bit on the narrators from this point on. And so you are the perfect person to start with. Lovely, talented, brilliant. You laugh at my jokes sometimes. So, so like I said, it was good. And then this is we're almost breaking each other in, because I've never done an interview and neither have you. So you say,
yep.
So, yep, I'll take your word for it. Okay. But you're too polished for me to believe that. But anyway.
I'm terrified. You haven't seen the fact that everything is just shredded paper down here, just constant shredded paper.
Okay.
My camera.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit earlier, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, I'm a latecomer to the genre. I mean, I was there when the big people were coming in, like William Morand and Blaise Corvin and James Hunter and so on and so forth. Their first books were coming out, but you were there even before I was, and you were like one of the early people into the genre. And one of the things I wanted to know was, what was it that pulled you in? What caught your imagination, so to speak, to make this genre stand out to you?
I was new to fantasy. That's a really strange thing to say, but my first real fantasy books that I had read were the Legends of Drizzt from R.A. Salvador.
Oh yeah.
And then I went, yeah, they're fantastic. And then I went to the Night Angel trilogy by Brent Weeks. And when I moved after that, my husband Hayes we'd inherited this huge library of all of these fantasy books that I had never really seen before. And I started pouring through them. And it was a while back now, but I started pouring through them piece by piece. And these worlds started, there's more to it than just something that's straightforward fiction, which is what I was reading before, things like mysteries or thrillers or things like that.
Right.
And when I made the progression into LitRPG, and I even read some of the Japanese light novels and stuff where they involved going into a game and living in a separate world, that fascinated me, because as coming from somebody who's not perfect physically, the idea of getting to be in a world where you can run on walls and defy gravity and curve bullets and be the hero that I think most people want to be in their head,
right.
Be the person that most people want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing to me. And so it was like, man, maybe someday this will be real. And I just got completely sucked into it. And SAO and finding the groups and all kinds of stuff later. That was it. It's been a weird road.
Yeah. But it's been a fun one, I'm sure. I mean,
absolutely.
This is one of the best communities in the world. I mean, they are super supportive. I mean, I don't care who you are, what you do. Once you're in, you are in. They take care of each other. I love this community to death. I mean, I think that the people here are just fantastic. And the nice thing is narrators and authors are very open and willing to speak to their fans. I don't know how many times I met, like you said, R.A. Salvatore, and it was a very brief conversation. Like, thank you very much for coming. Here's, sign the book.
Mm-hmm.
And most times that's what you get when you go to a convention. You get to sit down and talk to people. They're just moving along, getting the signatures and moving you out. But here you can sit down and have a full-blown conversation with yourself or whoever, as long as you're being respectful, everybody listens and they respond. And that's why I say I like this genre a lot. So I was kind of curious as to how you kind of came into this. So my next question is going to be, you weren't originally a narrator. No. What brought you into that? How did you fall into narration? Because it seems to me like it was kind of like right after you got into LitRPG, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Because some of the first LitRPG books that I listened to the first ones I listened to were by Jeff Hayes. And so I found out up to that point, my entire experience with audiobooks was Diablo 3 read by Scott Brick and a bunch of like standard fiction or self-help. I'd listened to a lot of like Jeffrey Kafer and stuff. So I was familiar with fiction or sci-fi, but the idea of really heavy character voices and like the idea that you can sound like multiple different people and stuff, that was absolutely amazing to me. So I transitioned into LitRPG from that. I fell into narration because I was in college for theater and I wanted to be a voice actor. And I found it was all kind of at the same time. I found, Jeff Hayes doing what he was doing right about that same time. And I was like, wait a second, I don't have to live in LA, but that might be kind of cool. That would be really neat. And I could do these characters and stuff in audiobooks instead. And then I can play all the characters. That'd be great. Cause then
Right.
I'm not just one. I want to try this. And Will Arand actually was the one who had convinced me to go on ACX and take a look at what was there and put samples up and start auditioning. And it was from there, basically. I was encouraged by several people in like every step of the way. It's kind of been within LitRPG, as weird as that is to think about. This community, I wouldn't be doing what I was doing without it. Legitimately. Right. I never would have found narration. I never would have been interested in it. It's just, this is what I wanted to do.
Oh no, yeah.
I'm so protective over it too. Like I'm so protective over LitRPG because of that. I'm like, no, it's good the way it is.
No, you're also, and there's nothing I hate more than like, a narrator who comes in. It's like, like an author who's right to market, or a narrator who's just trying to jump in at the last possible second because they know, we can make some money here. That sort of thing. It bothers me to no end when that happens because, they don't care about the community, and it's just more about how much can they get out of this. And I think the community is so much more.
I think the community self-polices on that front too, because I don't ever begrudge someone the ability to start, but you can tell when it's not genuine. Mm-hmm. And I've had this conversation, multiple times with the people in my life that talking about what has made, what certain narrators have done in the genre more successful than what other narrators have done and stuff. And it's multi-leveled, but one of the simplest things it comes down to is knowing how to say, quest complete. Please run to X room and turn in, because we know what that sounds like. We're gamers. Right, we're part of that world. Whereas somebody else reads that and just goes, quest complete, turn to go there and run. And it doesn't sound right. It doesn't, Absolutely. It never does. Absolutely. But it's little stuff. It's just immersion in the world, knowing where it comes from, and it being something that you really, truly love and enjoy. That comes across from the narrators that you can tell it comes across from. I'll put it that way.
Right. No, I agree with you completely. And one of the things I was kind of curious about, so when you were saying you tried out for ACX, was that how you got into Falling Out of Focus? That was your first book, right?
Yes. Yeah, by Bryn Myers. Yep.
I told you I researched.
Yes, that was my first book.
Yeah.
I actually did a special on Sound Booth Theater with that too. Jeff found out about it. Jeff I had been talking to for months before that, and he was really excited when my first book came out because he had been talking me through getting started and stuff. And so when it first came out, he said, hey, why don't you come on Sound Booth Theater and we'll do a reading on there and stuff. So that was my first time on SBT too, was with Falling Out of Focus.
Well, that's cool because, that's one thing I really like about Jeff. And I've always said, and I made him swear this to me a long time ago when I first got into the community, that if I die, I want him to read my obituary. I want it recorded because I have a very special obituary written already. It's all set, and he's the only man alive that can do this. So, Jeff is just amazing. And I think he's very, very supportive of other people when they come into this, as
he really is. He didn't need to give me the time of day. And being in the community now, in the narration community, at least the as much a part of that world as I can be. I can't afford to go to a ton of the events and stuff, but being on it on Facebook and stuff, I've realized now this time later how rare it was for someone to take the time like that, for someone to actually stop being a successful narrator and go, sure, newbie, I'll help you out and walk you through every step of this process and tell you what equipment to buy and take valuable time out of my day to do this. Being in it now, I see how rare it is that people do that. And so
Right.
Jeff was awesome to take the time with me that he did.
Yeah. I have nothing but respect for him and Ramon too. Because Ramon has been there. If I said, Ramon, I need help, Ramon's been like, pow, he's been on it. He said, here's what you got to do. We'll get this taken care of. No worries. If something comes up, he's like, don't worry about it. We'll make it happen in another time, whatever. So, they've been nothing but supportive for me. And my big thing was going into this. I probably said this before to you. I'm one of those guys. I would do reviews for people out of my window. I'd be like, hey, I read this great book. And no one would listen because I'm just yelling at them. But I would write all these reviews for books that I loved. And, they were like, well, try out for this. Jeff literally texted me and said, try out for, SBT's audiobook podcast. And I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm nearly 50 years old.
I was hoping it would be you, though. There were a bunch of us in the background that wanted it to be you so bad because your reviews, they were my favorites to read when I would go on to I'd go on to Audible and I'd be looking at my reviews and I'd be like, oh, Ray wrote a review. Yay. And that would be my favorite one to read. So when they announced the audiobook podcast, auditions and stuff, I was just going, please, please, please be Ray. Please be Ray. Come on, pick Ray.
I was blown away. I was. Well, I appreciate that. I really do, Andrea, because it was not anything I expected. I thought they were going to say, "Thank you very much for trying. We will move along, and we have somebody else over here who's much more articulate. They read the books better than you. They listen. They have ears. The ears work, and so that sort of stuff." And I thought, no chance in hell. And then I got it. And I'm like, well, now I got to actually do some work here. It's not going to be easy. So yeah, but like I said, the support. From them is just incredible. So I really understand what you're saying because neither one of them ever had to step up and say, if you need help, do this or we'll help you here. They didn't. And like you said, with you saying, Jeff stepped up, he said, welcome, we're going to embrace you. And that's this community. I keep harping on that, but that's the great thing about this community. So I think if I'm not mistaken, your first LitRPG book was Travail Online.
No, my first LitRPG was Dominion of Blades.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That was my first one.
Well, that was a good one. I mean, man,
it still is. It's got such a close place to my heart. I absolutely love the DOB series. It's awesome.
Well, Popper is probably one of my all-time favorite voices. That all I hear too. Anything goes wrong. I was, and forgive me, I'm gonna swear here, but anytime something goes wrong, I'm like, holy shit balls, like as good as you.
Motherfucker, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? Just the idea of a little kid with just a foul mouth and the attitude of just an angry ex-con was amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean it was just fantastic. When I heard that book, I was like, my God. And and here's where I'm gonna be honest with you. And I know I've probably written this to you a couple times or said something to you about this. You're the reason why I can listen to female narrators, because for a long time I had a massive bias. I don't want to say I was sexist, but I've had audiobooks that were done by ladies that they did not know what they were doing. They just did not. They didn't even come close to doing male voices, didn't, put the inflections in or anything like that. It was just really, really hard for me to, endure a lot of the work that they were doing. And then I'll even say Kathy Bates is one of the big ones. Award-winning actress Kathy Bates. I've
never heard her narrate anything. I haven't seen it.
You are very blessed. You are very, very blessed. And I can't remember which. It was either Silence of the Lambs or something else, but I think it was Silence of the Lambs, because I'd seen the movie, read the book, and I'm like, well, I've got to get the audio now. And I was just so crushed. I was like, I can't do this. And then I had a couple other books where it was the same thing. And I said, well, I'll try this because, this is good. I like this book. And then they fumbled the ball. And, it was just so bad. And then I heard you, and I think the first book I heard you do was Putera Online. And I mean, Maddie is like one of my favorite characters. I mean, like, Don Chapman can write a character to pieces, and Maddie's like the best. And your narration brought that book to life. I was like, holy crap, this is, doable. Like there's a lady out there who can read. And I've often said in my reviews, one of the things that really amazed me about you is the amount of emotion that you pour into your stories. I mean, not to blow smoke, but I mean, there have been times where, like with Dan the Barbarian, the hobgoblin is begging him, please, and I'm like, just do it, I'm coming in there, and and it's like that with insomnia. I mean, there's so much things like I hear in your voice things that I know are not written in the text, and I have to wonder how much do you know? How much has KT Hannah told you? About what's going on between the two, Sin and the main character and that sort of stuff. What's going on? Do you know everything more? Because you put so much into it. I can say, I think there's something happening here or happening here or happening here. And you did in all your books. And I like I said, I'm just amazed.
More than I can ever describe. Thank you.
Well, like I say, I'm just being honest. If it was terrible, I'd say, I don't even want to do this interview anymore. I'm out of here, so, but no, I mean, it's incredible. It's just incredible. So, you can't have a favorite, but like I say, with me, like, Maddie was there, Pauper's there. You've got so many characters. Who are some of the ones you enjoyed? Even if you want to bring in the Wandering Inn at this point and say, like, who are some of your characters that you enjoyed from there?
That I've enjoyed voicing.
Yes,
it's typically the ones that are kind of off the wall. That's almost always who it is. It's like the Zeeks from Dan the Barbarian and Pauper from Diminutive Blades, or like there's always those kinds of characters where they're kind of off the wall or nutty a little bit, and they settle in like it's like any movie or TV show. Everybody likes playing the villains, because they're the most interesting, they're the most colorfully written, they're the most over the top, because main characters are typically, designed to be something relatable so that you can put yourself in that position and experience that story yourself. So those characters are very frequently, they need to be calmer characters. They need to be the ones who are the relatable, stoic, standard people that you can follow along and say, yes, I totally relate to this guy. Whereas those peripheral characters can be nuts and they're amazing. They can be a lot more colorful and a lot more varied. And that's a lot of fun. And it has to do with, how much dialogue there is for those characters too. That can get a little rough. But yeah, there's been a ton of them that I've really enjoyed. Kilbakich was really fun because he had such a unique accent to him. Relk was a lot of fun. But honestly, the most fun I think I had with just a character in general was Pisces. Pisces is a blast because of just, he's over the top.
I know exactly what you're saying. But yeah, Kilbakich, in the book, I've got 3 really favorite characters, and 2 of them, they don't really have speaking parts, but you bring them to life. Even without speaking, you bring them to life. Tor, the skeleton. And Rags, the little goblin.
Oh, Rags is amazing.
Yeah, I love, and Kilbakich, of course, is one of my favorites too. But I don't know how you did that, because it's Kilbakich. I don't know how you can talk like that and not blow.
Yeah. Everything was Kilbakich, or we are doing that cleanly. Everything had to be popped and trilled. It was weird. It took a lot of takes. I can't do it off the cuff because it takes a lot of like practicing to get it through again, because everything that was an or those were both, and then were pop noises for anything that was a hard K sound or a C sound.
Right.
That was weird. It was a lot of fun. They said that they spoke with trills and pops in the book. So I didn't have any like, the author didn't want me to do anything specific with it. They didn't have anything that they wanted done. So I got to run with it, and that's what I did. I had the descriptions from the text. So I got to do what I wanted with it. And I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I bet. And that's, the book is really great. I mean, I'll go into that real quick here. I really enjoyed the book a lot. I mean, it was really fantastic, and you had a lot to do with it, because I'll be honest with you. There's 2 main characters, and the one is really, really great, and the other, I just wanted to punch in the head every time she did something, because she just did everything wrong, and she just did it the wrong way every single time. And I'm like, I can't take this girl. Ryoka just drove me crazy.
The funniest thing to me is everybody has the opinion of, not everybody. Everybody who liked the book, it's almost always, I loved one of the MCs and I hated one of the other ones, or I hated the other one. And it's always, you cannot guess which one it's going to be, because the
Right.
person will go, Erin's such an idiot. She did everything wrong. And Ryoka was at least grounded and reasonable. And then the next person will go, what are you talking about? Ryoka was a total bitch, and she was horrible. And Erin was at least realistic. Like, it's very polarizing for
Right.
how different those two characters were. I agree.
And I'll be honest with you, as I listened to it, and that's a whole miracle unto itself. I'll have to talk about some other time. I kept saying to myself, this is either a character that you're going to love or you're going to hate. And it went both ways. And, like you said, for me, Erin, she was very real. Like, everything she did would probably be something my stupid butt would be doing, like walking through the woods, not thinking about it, grabbing fruit off the trees and, is this edible, whatever. I would do all that stupid stuff just like she would. Whereas Ryoka, she was very, very distancing. And I think that distancing from other people also, for me, read into the reader. She was keeping away from us too. She's like, stay back. You're not getting any closer. I'm not letting you in on anything. And again, that's really good writing, because as much as I hated her, I enjoyed her story as much. I just wanted to smack her in the head. That's all there was to it. And I can't ask you, like, how did you feel about these characters yourself? Because I don't want you to put you on a spot. But so what I'll do is I'll ask, because you've already said you really like doing Relk and Kilpaketch and stuff. What exactly was it that made you want to do this book in the first place? Had you read any of The Wandering Inn before you had gotten the opportunity?
Yes, and I'd been chasing, this is the funniest part, I'd been chasing that book for a year. Like, I had wanted to do The Wandering Inn when it was on Royal Road. I'd read through what would be half of the first volume. And I was like, this is an amazing story. This is unbelievably written. I want to do this. And so in August of the year before it got published, I wrote to Pirate Abba on Royal Road, and they responded and said, I'm not really doing anything with the publishing. I'm not going to edit it for publishing or audio. So thank you. I appreciate the offer. You can use it on, a stream or YouTube, what you want to do with it for fan stuff, but I'm really not doing anything professionally with it. And I was like, okay, that I totally understand, and we had about 2 or 3 more interactions, just back and forth. I think it was 2 more after that. We had 3 total. They were just kind of back and forth, me checking on them, seeing if they changed their mind on it, see if they wanted to do it. And no, I don't think we're going to do that. And so I went, okay. So the last time I talked to him, I have no idea if they're male or female. Everybody asks me that. I have no idea. I spoke to them and basically said, I see that you've published. It was right after they had published it, and they had published on Amazon. And I said, I see you've published. If you have any interest in doing audio, let me know. I would be happy to help you with it, and just let me know. That one went unanswered, more than likely because right around that same time, Podium was talking to them. And so Podium, 6 months later, contacted me and said, hey, we've got this really cool book we want to work with you on, but it's really long. And I answered and I said, what is it? And they said, it's The Wandering Inn. And I'm like, are you finally, I'm going to get to do this book. So I had been pushing for that book for over a year at that point. So, and I know that it was a want, like a bunch of people wanted that in audio. So there were a bunch of us trying to get them to do audio for it.
Yeah, me. I mean, like, I hate to sound like this. I don't have time to read. Like, literally tonight, I was putting my kids to bed and I was reading them The Witch Who Saved Halloween. And that's the only time I have to read is when I'm putting children to bed. And usually it's Harry Potter or, something like that. So, otherwise it's audio for me. And, there's a lot of books out there I miss out because they're not in the audio format. And, and I know a lot of narrators who were kind of miffed at, you got this because a lot of people, just to be frank about it, there's some jealous people out there right now because this thing is blown up. I mean, the book is huge. I mean,
it's gotten bigger than expected.
Yeah.
It's been bigger than I thought it would be. It's been a little bit intimidating, to be completely honest.
Right. Well, I give you a lot of credit because, I don't know if you I've talked to you about this or not. I probably mentioned it. I once had an audiobook that was like 87 hours that I listened to. And it was a really good book, really, because it was like 16 books all in one. It was a series. And, by the time I got done with it, I was like, I know these people. I've lived with them. I've been on a spaceship with them. I could tell you everything about their lives. And when it was done, it was almost like the weight was off my shoulder because it was completed. And I was like, wow, it was worth it. But I don't know if I could go through 87 hours of a book again. I mean, I really don't. And then when I saw that,
told me the same thing.
yeah. And, so when I saw that you had like this 40-hour plus book, I'm like, oh my God, it's Andrea, so I have to listen to it. But it's 40 plus hours. And I'll be honest with you, the hours went by like this. I mean, I listened to it and it was in no time. I probably had it done in just 3 days. So, but we were really busy. And so I was always in the car or doing something or, other things I can't talk about on here. But it was just, one of those things I was always listening. So I got to go through it really fast and it was just very enjoyable. And I thought, my gosh, you really put in the time and effort to make this perfect, because I don't think I caught a glitch in the story, to be frank. There's times I'll hear like, narrators will say something 2 or 3 times and it's, they'll repeat a sentence here or there.
Oh, double taking stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get that here. I didn't hear you flub anything. I was like, you put the time and effort and the care into it. And I know that you did not rush it, because I can remember when you were just getting the book itself, it was a long time from the time you said, hey, I've got The Wandering Inn and I'm doing this, before it was completed. And I was like,
yeah,
there was a lot of time. How long exactly did that take you to record?
To record it, 2 months. It took me 2 months to actually record it. I was scheduled out pretty far when they contacted me. And so I had to push it forward a little, probably three months or something like that. I couldn't schedule it for like 3 months. And I started it in the very beginning of May. Was the very beginning of May? Something like that. And then I was done by the end of June. So it was 2 months. But it was almost right. At the time, I was trying to juggle doing another book at the same time, and it didn't work out. I was trying to figure out how to juggle, because that's its own issue, its own scheduling problem for a narrator to have a book that long, because it's other books, especially if you work in LitRPG and stuff, or Harem, how fast the books come out. Like
Right.
There's a huge release schedule for books.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are books piling up in the background while you're working on it, and you're desperately trying to get things done. So I tried to do 2 books at the same time, and it failed miserably. My voice would be too tired to record the one book, and then it would be too exhausted the next day, because I was able to do 3 hours this day, but then the next day it'd be completely out, and it was a mess. So I learned that lesson doing it, that it needs to just be dedicated time, and that would probably speed it up a little bit more too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it took a long time to record. And I have to say this, as far as no glitches or double takes or anything like that, I do punch and roll when I do punch and roll while recording, but I'm a child. But so I shouldn't be sending over anything that's a double take or anything to the editor, but there cannot be enough credit given to our editors and proofers. As narrators, we have editors and proofers that have our back so unbelievably that they catch it when you say Dookie rather than Dutchie.
You blew it. I was going to ask that question later.
I'm so sorry for blowing the surprise. Yes.
I'll skip it now.
That will haunt me forever. So that I was still proofing my own stuff. Don't ever proof your own stuff. So our proofers have our backs, and the editors make us sound good, and the team at Podium is amazing. So I mean, they're absolutely phenomenal. So there's a lot of people that go into the production of these books, and on a book that long, oh man, I probably had one of the easier jobs in that process, man. That would be a lot. That's a lot to master and edit and everything. They're phenomenal there.
Yeah. Well, I give editors a lot of credit, because I mean, I don't know the process, but I know what they go through. That you have to listen, re-listen, make sure everything is exactly right. Did we miss something? Are we missing paragraphs? Or did we skip this or that? It's like film. A good editor can put together a horrible movie and make it fantastic by editing. With sound, they can do the same thing. You can chop it up however you want to as a narrator, and as long as you've got your lines down, they can put it together and make it sound like it was flowing perfectly. So yeah, I give them a lot of credit, and that's one thing I will say that you're absolutely spot on with, is the editors deserve a lot of the accolades. But again, they're the behind the scenes people, and you're the face, you're the voice.
Yeah.
So I have to ask then, with the voice, you were wanting, because you had said, and it was one of those things I've always wondered, and please don't misinterpret what I'm saying here, because I don't want you to leave LitRPG. But why aren't you like doing animation voices? Why aren't you like doing stuff? Because you would kill. I mean, like, you would be a great animated voice in movies and things.
I don't live in LA.
Yeah.
Both movies and animation for any of the major studios, as well as anything with AAA video games, those are both completely based out of LA. You have to actually go into studio. We haven't reached the point at this point yet where we can do at-home animation audio. Or in Austin, Funimation is based out of Austin. So technically, if you live in Austin, you could do anime work if you are so inclined to train that skill. But yeah, it's almost all Austin and LA. I think Lori Winkle does some stuff in Atlanta, but I think hers is on camera more than animation. Animation is almost all in LA and Austin.
Okay. No, I was just curious, because like I said, with your talent, I mean, you would just crush. I mean, you would do cartoons, because you have a very versatile voice, and you can do male and female, and crazy, and you can do serious. There's like I said, when I was listening to Harmon Cooper's Apocalypse book, I kept thinking, how can she play like the stoner, and then there's two totally different philosophies here. How do you get yourself into that headset to be able to do that?
It's weird. I may not. I pride myself on having that ability, like that I will commit to it. I will commit to the character, even if it is wrong. I will commit to the character. I do it when I'm playing tabletop role-playing games with my husband and Skaz too. Like, I'll be talking to a dragon as a dwarf, and I start crying because my character's scared out of her mind, and I'm crying and sobbing, beseeching the dragon, and Hayes is sitting there in his chair just going, yeah, like, I'm killing this. This is amazing. Like, it's that dropping into a character and making a fool out of myself hasn't really ever been difficult for me. But sometimes, like, finding the character, maintaining the accent, connecting to that part's difficult. Maintaining the vocal part can be difficult, but the headspace of a character, the knowing what they would think or do. I may not have the biggest vocal range. I may not have, there's other things that I'm far weaker in. That part I like doing. That part I know I'm good at, is kind of figuring out the headspace of a character and what they do, because I think about it a lot. That's one of the big things that I talk through on my stream is, okay, but she just came out of this, so I don't think she'd be this excited about it yet. I feel there should be more apprehension to this. I'll sit there for 20 minutes thinking out that stuff. So it translates.
I mean, it translates into the book. I mean, like I said, I think really, and I'll say it as clear as I can, I think your work on Somnia Online is probably some of the most emotional. It's powerful. I mean, I listen to it, and I can feel like the emotions and the things that people are going through, whether it's sin or, I mean, like, everybody has things that's happening, and there are definitely issues that everybody has, and you bring all of that forth very easily, it seems. And I give you a lot of credit, because you very obviously think things through and say, where is this person at this point in time? What would I do if I were in their place? How would I feel? I get that a lot. And like I said, I don't know, and don't, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but how much did KT Anna say to you, these people have this kind of relationship. There's this kind of relationship with these people. They're going through this, or do you just suss it out as you go through the readings?
99% of it I suss out. Katie and I went over some stuff before Somnia 1. Not the stuff you are thinking of, because I think I know what you're thinking of. Not that. That actually came later. If I remember her, she talked to me about it, and that kind of came later. But it was more like we have conversations kind of after the book, because she likes to hear my reaction of it too. She likes to hear what I thought of it and what I got out of it too.
Mhm.
If there's really important stuff, she will share and she'll tell me what's going on, or these people need to kind of have this feel just because this may go on in the future. But her characters live in their world. So when I read it, I've never really had trouble pulling what the characters are going through, or how they feel from her stories, just because they feel so much a part of the world they are in. They
Yeah.
live and breathe in that environment, and that comes through in her writing. So I've never had trouble finding, this person's relationship with this person, or these people seem kind of rough with each other, or anything like that, because it's there. You can
Well, yeah,
feel it.
they're very real. They're well fleshed out.
Yeah.
I mean, I give her a lot of credit as a writer, because, you read her stuff, and there's no question, it's all laid out as plain as it can be. They are who they are, and like I say, you bring that to life, really, really well, and I respect that a lot. But I'm going to back up a little bit, because I had a question, and you were talking about Dominion of Blades. In that series, there's a very special guest in that series that you.
Yes.
How did Hayes get involved in that? Can I ask?
He was in Binding Words too. He was in the second Binding Words book. He played a werewolf in that one, and he was also in Travail. He played two gods in Travail. He is my absolute lifeline when there is a voice that I can't do justice to. I feel like I am going to do the book a disservice by not using a male voice that can do a voice that I can't do. And there is an element of, he can safely do a voice that really genuinely risks hurting my voice if I do it too much.
Right, no, I
And
get it. Yeah, yeah.
so I'll pull him in, and it's, I both want this known and not want this. I cannot do an Australian accent to save my life. I cannot. I cannot.
Okay.
Do not ask me to. If you have it in your book, your character's not getting an Australian accent at this point. They
It's
will
gonna
sound
become,
like they had a stroke. It
I was
is
gonna say,
awful.
they're going to become Austrian, is what you're saying?
Yes, it's like if an Austrian and a Cockney person had another person, someone grew up and then that person didn't know how to talk. That's how my Australian accent sounds. It's terrible.
Fair
So,
enough.
Hayes had a good one. Hayes has a great, like, bogan Australian accent, just that country Australian accent, and it was perfect for Oliver, the little dude, the Beastmaster. So, and he was Bingo, and he did a great job as Bingo. So, yes, he is my lifeline when it comes to characters that I just don't feel doing justice to. He would have been King of Destruction in The Wandering Inn if it wouldn't have been through Podium. Because it was through Podium, I didn't have the right to bring him in. But if it would have been me alone, I would have had him do that, because that character was terrifying to me, and it was a whole chapter of yelling in that really loud, gravelly voice.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I understand, and plus, I guess he works for cheap, right? I mean,
Yeah, cookies mainly.
me too. I work for cookies. Jeff Hayes sends me a box every couple months, and I'm good. How many reviews did you get? There's Oreo and a chocolate chip. And yeah, so no, I work for I don't know how because I don't think my wife would ever do something like that. If I said, come down and be on the show with me, she'd be like, no, not going to do it. So I don't know how you could talk him into doing that, because my wife would not do it. My kids, yeah. Like when I do the dungeon coming up soon, my kids have already said, we're going to be there. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I'm like, great kids. But my wife never, because I love my wife, and I'm going to just say it as gently as I can. She is not a big fan of LitRPG because of the tables. She's great. Like, she loved the Bathrobe Night, but it wasn't like, great big huge table after table after table. And I'll be listening to books, and they're like, dexterity here and wisdom here and this and that and the other thing. And she's like, how how do you do this? She's like, I would fail this book. Just give it a pass because I can't, can't connect with that at all in my head, how you can do that. So, I respect that he's willing to come out and help out when you need
He's another voice actor, so it worked out. When I started doing this, he doesn't, his voice is really intense to hold for an entire narration book. Like, it would be exhausting to listen to. That's why he doesn't want to narrate. And also, he doesn't have the patience for it. He's a voice actor. He likes voice acting. He was Dr. Doom in an offshoot Marvel thing and stuff. And did I just make an idiot? Is Dr. Doom's Marvel, right?
Yes, he is.
Oh, thank God. Okay, I was making sure I didn't say something stupid just now. But he was already a voice actor like long before I was. So when I started doing this, he let me know, if there's any rough stuff, if you ever need any help, I'm totally down to help you out. But he won't narrate to say, but he can't. He hates it. Yeah. He hates narrating. He likes listening to the audiobooks.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, do you like? I'll ask. I know that at one time, you were probably just throwing out there your net when you were getting started and catching whenever you could, because you had done like a paranormal romance book and then something else. Yeah. Can't remember. But now, do you like read the books before you go into it, or do you have like where you just say, okay, I know the characters because I've talked to the author? How do you prepare to, because I don't know, I would have to read the books to see, from start to finish, so that I would know the character growth and changes and that sort of thing. But how do you prepare for that?
Oh, before I start recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always prep the book. I read the book through. I don't do the real heavy script markup. There's a lot of narrators that will go through and like mark breaths and mark tone changes and all kinds of stuff. Excuse me. And they'll mark tone changes and everything about it. They'll highlight different characters in different colors of highlighter and stuff. They do a ton of script work. I don't go through that. I don't go that far. I just prep through. I read through the book. I will gather pronunciations that worry me that I'm not sure that I'll know. And then I send those off to the author because like Somnia has new pronunciations and new names every single book. Same thing with Finding Words. Daniel is in stream a lot. So he's around almost the whole time or right around the whole time when I'm recording one of his books. So he's a little bit easier in that front, or not easier, but more accessible on that front. He's around, so I don't have to prep the list before I start. Typically he's there so he can answer questions as I go. But there's all different kind of ways to prep that different narrators use, but mine is just I prep through the book, I read through it, I get feelings for what I want to do for the characters. Typically in the first quarter of a book, I know how people sound in my head. Like that's just what they sound like to me, and that's what I'll do.
Right.
And that's it.
No, I understand that. And I think as talented as you are, you don't have to go through all the little markups and write-ups, because you kind of have this innate feeling, I think, that you can say, okay, I know this is where this has to happen and this is the way they should be doing things. So I give you a lot of credit on that. No, don't thank me. I'm just telling it like it is.
Well, I feel like my theory on it was, if I go through and mark it up on my first read through, I don't know that I'm not going to feel differently about it after I've already finished the book. So when I'm going back through it, those markings may not hold the same meaning for me because of something that happened at the end of the book that makes me change how I view this scene now. So I like to let the book grow with me while I experience it at the same time.
Yep, that makes sense. I mean, like, I'll be honest with you, 99% of the time when I'm reading to my kids, because I do voices and everything like that, and like I've always wanted to do narration, but neither here nor there. But anyway, I've always read books to them that I've read many times. So I know I can get to the end of the page before I even turn it. I can tell you what they're going to say the next thing. So I can keep going. I'm like, how do you know what they're going to say before you get to the next? Because I've read these books so many times, that I know what they're going to say and how they're going to react and stuff like that. So I can do, the different things and keep up with it. So I totally get that. I really do. I think reading through is probably the smartest thing you can do. I don't know how I know there are narrators who do this, but I don't know how you could come into it cold and just set to reading. But you can tell. To me, there's a lot of times I can tell a narrator just came into the book, opened the first page, or I guess you guys use those electronic screens, don't you? You're not flipping pages anymore. That's old school. See how old I am? But you're scanning, flipping through the the Kindle or whatever you use, or iPad, and just starting to read as they go, and that's just how it is. There's a lot of them like that. So I give you a lot of credit because you're putting in the time to do the reading, and so is that how you kind of pick your books too? Like you pick up a book and you say, I really like this book, and I'll see if they want to, or if they're interested.
It depends on the situation, honestly. Like every book kind of they've all come to me in different ways. Excuse me, Will, I was friends with when I first started out. So he and I started working on his Randy Darren stories, and then it just grew from there. And KT approached me. Dawn had approached me. I approached Brian Simons for Travail. I approached Hondo. I can't remember. I think Daniel and I had been kind of encouraged to talk to each other. Like I think that Will had told Daniel to talk to me, and Will had told me to talk to Daniel. So then we hooked up to talk about his. So they've all kind of different. They have different origins, but at this point, I'm kind of working for the most part with the same people. Oh, Harmon. Harmon, I knew basically through the community, and he approached me about Star Spangled Apocalypse, and then Death's Mantle this year. But yeah, they're all kind of at this point just people that I know. As weird as that sounds, like I know our community is amazing. People are accessible. These authors are people, and they're accessible. They'll talk to you about their books. They're passionate. They're interesting to talk to. And so you just kind of get to know them, which makes it a million times harder when you are busy and don't have time in a schedule to do a book for somebody that you absolutely adore, that you would love to work with otherwise. But at this point, most of the time, it's just people that I know that I talk to and go, yeah, I'd love to connect with you over this. I'd love to do a book with you at some point,
Well,
and then it either works out or not.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think you've hit most of the major players, honestly, in LitRPG. I can only think of maybe a handful right off the top of my head that I don't think you've worked with. And I might be wrong, but I think, like, honestly, I think the only names I can think of would be like Dakota Kraut or James Hunter, because everybody else, I think you've got William Moran, you've got Blaze Corvin, Daniel Shinofin. You could go on and name all the people, but I'm just saying for the LitRPG community, I think you've gotten 99%. You've worked with them along the line, and even with
There's
SBT,
so many amazing authors in our community.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, and like I say, what really amazes me with you is you've also worked with SBT on books, and and you're not a primetime player for them. You're kind of just coming in as a special guest, which is really fantastic. But it's a surprise. I always love to see it when you just pop up out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, there's Andrea's name. Okay. So how did like, because you've done a few things with SBT recently, how did all that come into play for you?
That's the funniest thing. Jeff had asked me to work with SBT back when he was starting to do the multicast thing, when he wanted to switch over into multicast a few years ago. He had asked me to join on and do a book with him, and I panicked because Jeff, if somebody doesn't know this, Jeff is superhuman. Like, he is an unbelievably efficient narrator. He doesn't make the same mistakes. He remembers characters immaculately. Like, he is an unbelievably talented guy. And I require I am slower. I am anal retentive. I have to keep notes and records, and I can't turn out as much audio as he can. So even today I can't. So I kind of freaked out and was like, no, there's no way. I'm not going to be able to keep up with you. I'm going to end up dragging the company down, and I'm going to ruin everything. And also I also wanted to be me. I was so afraid of becoming something else. I didn't want to be, under Jeff's wing, because he was such a powerhouse. He's so good that I didn't want to be stuck underneath him in his shadow, So right. I wanted to try to make it on my own so that I could prove to myself that I could do it, that I wasn't just, he had already helped me so much. I didn't want it to be, oh yeah, and I'm successful because Jeff let me into sound booth, So he's such an unbelievable force in the industry, and he's so incredibly kind and giving. The last thing I ever wanted to do was just piggyback myself off of him, that's my worst nightmare. So I insisted on being completely independent for years. I was like, I don't want to work with anybody. I don't want to hook my wagon to anybody else's train. I want to make sure that I can do this, that I'm not risking somebody else's career because I do something wrong. And that neuroses is the genuine reason to, like, I'm so scared of messing up somebody else's stuff, somebody else's deadline, somebody else's career. So I freaked out for a long time about it, wouldn't work with anybody. And then slowly but surely, I've started branching out from it. Jeff asked me about it at the beginning of the year, right before Here Now. And it was well before Here Now, actually. It was probably in February. And he said, hey, would you consider finally working with SBT? And he's like, I'll take care of everything. It'll be fine. I would love to have you do character voices for us. And I said, okay. All right. I'm me now. I'm me. I'm not anybody else. I don't have to worry about, freaking out because I took advantage of somebody or I messed something up for somebody. I'm just me. And I'm confident enough and competent enough at this point that I was like, all right, I think I can do this. I think I'm all right with working with somebody else now. And that was kind of I worked with Jeff or with Sound Booth, and then I worked with Podium, and now I'm working with Chris Graves on Sketch.
Oh, Chris is awesome, by the way.
He's amazing. I absolutely adore that guy. He's so cool. And there's somebody else. I think I'm missing something. But anyway, I don't remember at this point. Oh, and somebody else, but that's not a thing yet. So you can cut that part out because that made no sense. I was just trying to remember something.
We'll leave it in just for kicks.
Thank you. Anyway, that's the whole thing. It's basically that I wanted to work with other people. This is a very isolating job. It's a very kind of a lonely thing. So I eventually wanted to try acting with other people and seeing what it was like to act off of other people and do multicast because it's a totally different thing. It was a huge opportunity. So I was like, yeah, I do want to try this. This would be great.
Well, I'm glad you did because, I understand, you kind of had to get your narration legs and where you could feel like you were able to stand on your own. You had done your time, you had proven yourself. And after you do that, then you can say, okay, now I can play with the other people because I know what I'm doing, and then that's just wisdom right there. Because, if you're just starting out and you say, hey, I want to run with the big dogs, usually you get bit, and it happens like that. So, I mean, I think that you played it pretty smart. And I think everybody here knows how professional and amazing you are with things. So, oh no, stop it. But you just, like I say, you elevate everything that you touch. I could almost say you could take like some fifth grader's story and read it, and then it would be like a college level book. Andrea could do that. She could do that easily. So, one of the things I wanted to go back to because you were talking about it, and I meant to ask. See, I'm scatterbrained, so I'll jump around here and there. You said it had taken pretty much 2 months solid to do The Wandering Inn. How long does it actually take you to do a regular 12 or 13-hour book? How long does it usually take to complete?
It depends because it depends on how much dialogue there is versus how much narration. I found that's the biggest indicating factor for me as to how quick a book is going to go. It all really depends. Typically, I record about an hour and a half a day. So I finished audio. I get about an hour and a half done per day, unless it's, excuse me, unless it's super heavy dialogue. If it's all dialogue, like a lot of Will's books are, where you're jumping between 7 different characters. Daniel's are like that too, where it's all just person, like all the way through, and they're all different emotions and all different types of people. Those are exhausting vocally. So those I can burn out after an hour. I've had days where 45 minutes took me 4 hours and I just was burnt at the end of it. But for the most part, that I can crank out between an hour and a half and 2 hours a day. I can push it up to 2.5 or 3 if I absolutely have to, if it's a real heavy dialogue book. But I don't like doing that because I feel like that does a disservice to the book because I'm not able to give it as much like as much care. I just
Mhm.
I don't like prefer doing that. So
No, and I get that because I'm sure, like, changing your voice back and forth. You talk. I went to the store and there was this other guy, and then we fought. And then I did this, and then you go through this whole thing. You're racking your throat to pieces. So
yeah, it's exhausting. And
yeah.
females have a little bit more fragile of a voice on that front. Our voices tend to fatigue faster, so it makes it a little bit tough when it's specifically characters like that. Oh,
Mhm.
really? Characters like this, like the really airy characters?
Mhm.
Oh, these'll burn you out so fast. Whispering's actually really terrible for your voice, but, like, whispering is really, really rough because it's a sandpaper to your sinuses and your throat. So, those voices that are like this, like Wolfgar and stuff,
Uh-huh.
those are actually easier to do than the ones that are real voicey like those ones. Those'll burn me real quick. But
Right.
yeah.
No, yeah, I understand that because I think I told Lavelle Jackson, I said, and it's in my review, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but he did that book Varnoth, and I said one of the things I was really disappointed with the narration was the narrator did not try in the slightest to make it an animalistic voice, and he's like, well, I think his response was, that has to hurt after a while, and I'm like, Lavelle, I could talk like this all day, I can talk forever. I can go deeper, I can make it growly. I can talk like this forever because when I was a kid, that was my super monster voice. And I talk like that all day long.
Yeah.
So I could do that without breaking a sweat and never have my throat grow raw. But if I talk like this, then my
Yeah.
voice, it won't do it, so I can understand, exactly what you're saying. But, that's where I say you have to know the character a lot, and that's where I say I got upset with the Varnoth, and it's no disrespect to Jack Veraces. Well, I guess I'm calling him out on it, but if you've
I
got
don't
an
know him
animal,
personally. I'm sure he's a
yeah,
great guy. I have no idea.
right. Well, I'm just saying, but if you've got an animal, because you would totally do that. You would say, okay, what does a giraffe sound like? I can see you totally saying, what would a giraffe sound like? And then you would say, well, they got a long neck, so they're going to talk like this.
Yeah.
You know, and you would make that work in the character, whereas all I got was some guy with a British accent saying he was a panther, and I said, this is not working, I'm not happy. So like I said, I respect the stuff that you do so much because you put thought into it, and just talking like that, I understand exactly why the time that you put in is so limited. Because I can remember I'd gotten on Discord, which I told you many times I do not do because spoilers,
Huge
spoiler.
spoilers.
Yeah.
All the spoilers.
Yep. And I was really jazzed because I wanted to hear you doing The Wandering Inn, and you were working on. I don't know what the other book was you were working on. I can't remember. My brain is just it doesn't work
Swing
that well.
shift.
Okay, Swing Shift. Okay,
Swing shift, yeah.
and you were like that, and you're like, okay, guys, I've got to get like an hour in of The Wandering Inn, so we're going to switch over here. And I'm thinking, my gosh, how long have you been working on this one? And you're going to go over to that. You
Yeah.
probably you put in the time. And
those days I run about 3 hours because then I'm able to do you do one character. Well, it depends. Now I don't do that as much just because it is so wearing. But at the time I was pulling, 2.5 to 3 hours because I was doing both books at the same time and both books had to get done. So yeah, that was rough. That was rough. That was a bad decision.
Okay. Well, I think unless you want to keep chatting, and it's been about an hour since we got started here, and I promise you to keep it short. And I really try not to keep you up all night. And I'm surprised my phone hasn't rang since we started. I said as soon as we start, I'm going to get a call, and I've got to go. I can just see it happen. So, like I say, and for the listeners that they're tuning in right now and they're watching us, this has been, and Andrea will attest to this, we have tried to do this so many times to get this interview to happen, and everything, if it could go wrong, it would go like, Andrea, I'm sorry, I haven't slept in 3 days, and I'm going to bed, or something, whatever it was.
Mine was citywide internet outage
Yeah.
for 2 days. 2 days I had a citywide internet outage, and then it was not getting out of the booth until 8:45 at night. I was like, I'm so sorry, Ray. I'm so tired.
Yeah. And then we tried to record and it didn't work. And, it's just been one thing after another. Like I said, I'm waiting for the ceiling to fall or something to happen. there's going to be a gas explosion and I'm going to get rocketed into the sky, something along those lines. So we've really tried very hard to make this happen. I'm so glad I've had this opportunity because you are an amazing person, and I very much appreciate all the work you do. Like I said, I don't think I've ever heard a book that you did that I didn't love, and genuinely mean that. Like, there are books I can say other people have narrated, and I'm like, hey, it was okay. You 100%. I've listened to them, and I'm like, that's a damn good book, man. I'll tell you what. My wife's got to listen to me talk about, how good this was or how good that was. Or I'll talk about, like, one of my favorite characters is Gothy. And Andrea plays Gothy so well. It just amazes me. And she's like, who's Gothy? And I'm like, oh, I can't go into it. Or I'll talk about Kilbaketch or, you name them. And I could probably go through and tell you, Sin is my favorite from, Somnia. And, Wandering in Kilbaketch was probably my favorite voice. Any Iran book you've done, I can't even tell you that you've done so many that I'm blown away. But with the Hobgoblin, and I can't think of her name off the top of my head, from Dan the Barbarian, she was amazing. Pauper, you just have memorable characters one after another. It just keeps me glued. So I keep coming back to everything you do. So I do.
Ula. The Hobgoblin was Ula. I just remembered it. It was driving me crazy in my head. I was like, Lola? Ula.
Yeah, because I sang that stupid song, being hot sun in the summers. Ula. Yeah, I can remember that. You're right. Darn it. See, I'm getting old, Andrew. This is gray, and it's not getting darker.
You look fabulous, darling. And not enough is said for how much you do for us. Thank you for leaving reviews and supporting us and being amazing. You are awesome. We all rooted for you. I don't know anybody who didn't want you to become the audiobook podcast person. When you did, it was the greatest thing ever. Your reviews were already a bright spot for us. So to make it so that now we get to see you while you're giving those reviews.
Well, I appreciate it.
I have to wait to watch your reviews because I'm just like, oh no, this is going to be the day. This is going to be the day. It's going to be the day he hates the book. It's going to be the day he hates the book.
No,
okay, it's going to be fine.
I think you're safe. I don't think I would ever hate anything you do, but like I said, it's nothing but love for you because I'm just amazed with everything you do, and I really, really do appreciate you taking the time and for breaking me into doing an interview because I've never done that before. I hope it comes across that I knew what I was doing, or at least looked like I knew what I was doing, or had done research or something. Yes,
absolutely.
But no,
I hope I didn't babble too terribly.
No. You're very articulate. Yeah, so
thank you.
No worries there. But yeah, thank you again for everything. And
thank you.
You'll see the review here real soon.
Yay!
You don't even know what it is, do you? You don't even know what I have. Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't heap a whole, like, it's not all praise. I do say some things about characters that I was kind of struck with, but I still say it was a great book. It's one of the best books I've ever listened to. So and again, I think that I can't think of anybody else that would deserve this more than you. And I love a lot of narrators, but this is probably your crown jewel, so to speak, up to this point. So,
Thank you.
Congratulations.
The next one comes out probably sometime next summer, I'm guessing.
And that's going to be what, 105 hours?
Okay. From what I can tell, I don't have a word count on it yet, but from what I can tell, it's half again as long. So it's probably going to be about 65, 70 at my current reading rate. So probably about 70 hours.
Wow.
Hopefully it comes in under that. That's going to be pretty long. So
yeah, I don't know if my phone can handle, like I said, one of the things, my phone, it won't let me do anything like over 12 hours. And if it's over 12 hours, I've got to delete stuff off my phone. I said, well, I'll never get to listen to this book. And I downloaded it and it was playing. I'm like, holy crap, it's a miracle. And I'm not going to say a word. And that's why I listened to it, straight through. I was like, I'm not stopping. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. I can't even do like 9-hour books anymore. It's like, it's still saying no. So yeah, it was one of those, there was a miracle that happened. I was praying and said, please, Lord, let this happen. So but, again, I would really much like to thank you for everything. I hope this was fun for you. And you know me, anything you need, let me know. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Awesome. You too.
Well, gang, I'd like to thank you for listening to that. I have to say I had an amazing time talking with Andrea and listening to this book. I'm no doubt that this is probably one of the best books there is in LitRPG or anywhere, really, if for fantasy or whatever you want to call it. No matter what kind of genre you slam it into, it's just really, really good. And I hope you do understand that it's one of those things that I can't recommend more highly enough. I might have had some issues with some of the characters or things like that, but that's my own thing, and I explained exactly why I felt the way I did, and I stand by it. It doesn't mean that I didn't like listening to or reading the story as it went through about the characters. Even if I had a beef personally with them, the power of the story itself is so great that I can still not like a character, but still love the book. And that's the true mark of an amazing craftsman. So Pirate Abba, thank you for that. And I want to point this out to everybody. I did invite Pirate Abba to participate. I received a very nice letter back saying thank you, but no thank you. I try to keep my identity secret. I don't know who he or she is either. As Andrea said in the beginning, she did not know. It's top secret. But, they were offered the opportunity to come on and do things. And I think, and I don't want to read too much into it, they offered to let us read a few bits of something that they had written as well. But I decided if they didn't want to participate, that was fine. I didn't want to have Andrea do more work for the show. That wouldn't have been fair to her. So one thing I do want to recommend, or I forgot, so I want to bring up before we leave, is that Andrea did win an award for her work on Dominion of Blades. Popper's an amazing character. I love Popper a lot, and her work did earn her an award. I think it was at the Here Now Awards not too long ago. So I just, forgive me for not bringing that up, Andrea. I hope that you understand. We just got into the conversation and things happened, and I did not bring that up. So, again, I want to thank Andrea for stepping in and doing this. It was both of our first times doing an interview or being interviewed, and it's not easy. Sometimes, you wonder, what kind of questions should I ask or what should I do? And she made it so much easier for me, just because her awesome personality clearly comes through here. Love Andrea to death, and I thank her so much for the opportunity. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed this singular book special. We do have the Dungeon special coming up soon, and I want to get that out around Halloween, so it'll be the next one we do. Oh my gosh. So, until next time, my name is Ray. Keep listening.